Here. All right, awesome. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. Can you go ahead and drop in the chat where you guys are at in your dietetics career, whether you're a student, whether you're interning, whether you're a dietitian right now, and I'll kind of try to speak to your various situations. A little bit about me. My name is Jessica Isaacs. I'm a dietitian and board certified specialist in sports dietetics. I'm a second career dietitian, so I was actually in the Air Force before becoming a dietitian. I got married, had a kid, so maybe there's some people with similar situations, and I want to highlight that just to show that there's different paths to becoming a sports dietitian or dietitian in general. Everybody's path looks a little bit different, and so some of them may be a little bit longer, some may be shorter. I did my undergrad at Purdue University, and then my dietetic internship, I did a distance program through Wellness Workdays. I know they have like a sports nutrition and entrepreneurship or something like that track. I didn't do that one. I did a corporate wellness track at the time, but they did have an elective rotation where I was able to do specifically in sports. Let me look in the chat here, see what we got. Okay, so we've got a bunch, basically students, current dietitians, graduate students, a whole collection already eligible. Awesome. So my first job was actually not in sports. My first job was in a clinical setting. So right out of school, there really wasn't a sports job that I was eligible for or that was geographically where I was looking. And so I did an inpatient clinical job to start off with and did an outpatient diabetes counseling. I do think that if you aren't able to get a career in sports right out the bat, which can be common, that's not necessarily a bad path to take. There's a lot of clinical nutrition that still is involved in sports dietetics. So it's nice to have sometimes that complementary experience. My first job in sports, though, was at Mamba Sports Academy, which is a training facility out here in California where I'm at. It was Kobe Bryant's training facility. So I worked with athletes of all levels there. It was kind of like a private practice type of a role. And then I moved on to UCLA. I was their basketball dietitian working with their men's and women's basketball teams for about a season before there was a position that came open for the LA Clippers. And then I became their lead dietitian for a couple seasons. And now currently, I went ahead here. I have a new opportunity that I've recently accepted. And then besides working at USC here shortly, I'm also a private practice dietitian. I do one-on-one performance nutrition counseling and content creation projects. My goal for today is that you get a lot out of this, a lot of resources, a lot of ideas, some tips, maybe some opportunities that you didn't know about, and then perhaps learn a little bit more about if the sports dietetics career is something that you're interested in. As a sports dietitian, we do all sorts of things. We do nutrition counseling, we do assessments, we do team education, food service, management, arranging catering, whether that's at home, maybe post-practice or game meals. Sometimes like for the Clippers, it was on the road, hotel meals, airplane meals, that sort of thing. Doing body composition changes, working with strength coaches, athletic trainers for injury recovery protocols, doing lab work, maybe supporting athletes with eating disorders, recognizing that, maybe creating policies at your institutions. There's lots of different roles that sports dietitian can have and lots of different places they can work at. And each role looks a little bit different. A collegiate role, depending on how many sports dietitians are on staff, if it's a small operation or a large operation, and depending on the level of support you have with like interns and fellows and that sort of thing, you may be doing a lot of manual labor and it may be a very time-consuming job. Oftentimes people will ask, like, what's a work-life balance like in sports? And I'll say it really depends on where you're at. In a collegiate setting, it can often be, very long hours, very long days, and same thing in a pro setting. But there are some other roles that have a little bit more balance and stability, I think. But let's get into it here. Every journey to success is unique. No two paths look the same, and that's what makes each story inspiring and valuable. And again, whether you get here through a direct path, whether you get an awesome opportunity right after becoming a dietitian, or whether this, kind of takes more of a curved path to get to it, the end goal is just doing something that I feel like that makes you feel fulfilled and makes you feel like you're making an impact. So starting off with, if you're at the undergrad or grad school level, really think that as soon as you can, as much as you can, get experience in a sports nutrition setting, whether that is at your local university or at your own university, or it's at a local university, or there's a local sports team that you can volunteer with or intern with. Getting exposure and experience early on is really going to help you out for a number of reasons. It's going to be, something to put on a resume, obviously, but also just allowing you to experience, what is this world like? What is this role like? Is it something that I enjoy? Is it something that fits with what I want to do? Is it something that fits with my lifestyle, my particular situation? So really get exposure to it early on for that. And then also we're networking. Starting off, in your undergrad, you should be networking with dietitians, even strength coaches, athletic trainers, people that are working adjacent to athletes in some capacity, because these are all going to be people that are going to build out your network. And a network is really, really important in lots of different fields, but really in sports dietetics, there is a component of who you know, and not only who you know, but who knows you and who knows the quality of work that you do. You can join relevant dietetics clubs, nutrition clubs, professional organizations. You can bring in guest speakers, sports dietitians to get more exposure. And again, to build out your network and connections. You can attend conferences and workshops. I'll show you some of those in a later slide. And again, if you have opportunities to shadow a sports dietitian or even an athletic trainer or other sports meds, performance professionals, all that exposure is going to be really helpful for you. And then your dietetic internship, if you can, choose an internship that has either a sports nutrition focus. There's really not a lot of those, to be honest. I put a couple examples of programs that do have a sports nutrition or sports nutrition-like focus or pathway of some sort. Or you can also look for a program that has an elective rotation where you can complete it on your own in a sports nutrition setting. SCAN, which is the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, their DPG, it's now changed to I think it's called SHPG or something like that, Sports Human Performance Group, something like that. They have a list. I don't know if they keep it updated anymore, but they have a list on their website of different courses and different grad schools and different internships that have a sports nutrition or like a kinesiology component to them. Next, after the exam, so, hopefully we pass the exam, yay! And then you can start looking at entry-level sports nutrition positions. I will tell you, in sports nutrition, it's very normal to see a lot of unpaid internships and fellowships. It's not my favorite, but there is a component, again, of getting exposure to the field and letting people see what you do, and see that you fit in the role. It's a very fast-paced and high demand, high pressure field, and it's not the best fit for everybody. And it's also, sometimes a sports dietitian bringing somebody on, you're putting a lot of trust and faith that that person's going to help the program. And so oftentimes they don't want to take risks of bringing on someone that doesn't have any experience in the field. So you will see some of those unpaid internships. If that's something that you can do and you're interested in, check those out. If that's something that doesn't work for you, then there's other ways as well. I didn't do any unpaid internships after I became a sports dietitian. Before, certainly, but not afterwards, personally. ASPD PDA. Used to be CSPDA. They've recently changed it, but they are, I think, the best location to look for jobs in different types of opportunities. And I'll share some other places to look as well later on. And then network as much as you can with other sports dietitians. And again, those that work adjacent. It's not always a sports dietitian that's hiring for a sports dietitian role. Sometimes it's a strength coach. Sometimes it's a athletic trainer even. Sometimes it's, someone that has no idea what a sports dietitian is at all and doesn't really know what to look for. So you could get lucky, but also it's helpful to know these people that aren't just sports dietitians so that you can broaden your net a little bit. And then if you're interested in the CSSD credential, which is a board certified specialist in sports dietetics, you have to be an RD for 2 years. You need to get 2,000 documented practice hours in sports dietetics. And then there's a CSSD exam. The practice hours, there's different levels of your education that can take away some of those required practice hours. If you submit for a paper, I believe that counts as some practice hours. The best way is obviously to get a job in sports, and then you can just use all those hours, but that's not always feasible for everybody. So I'll show some other ways to get hours towards your CSSD. Again, you have to be an RD already for these hours to count. So anything that you do pre becoming a dietitian doesn't count towards a CSSD, but it does count towards experience. So other areas to gain potentially experience, whether that's now or whether that's later, once you become a or become a dietitian, you're looking to accumulate some of those hours. You can volunteer at sports events. Maybe that's providing the local nutrition sport at a race that's going on or a tournament, maybe setting up a hydration station, having some handouts or flyers, or offering some post-event recovery snacks. Maybe you can even get a brand to sponsor you to put some of these things out there. You can work at a fitness center or a gym, either working there as a dietitian there, or you can maybe offer to do a seminar or a workshop, and maybe offer your service there if you're trying to take on private practice clients. You can do social media and blogging. You can start a blog that's focused on sports nutrition. I believe these hours do count, doing some sort of social media. If you're sharing evidence-based sports nutrition, dietetics type education, I believe these hours do count. I talked to CDR to kind of see what qualifies. But that's also just helpful to build your online presence. A lot of us older sports dietitians aren't super savvy when it comes to social media and tech and that sort of thing. And so they're always looking for support, whether that is, again, as you're a student or an intern. If you're looking to support a sports dietitian, that can help you get exposure and maybe to get some experiences doing some things and helping out in some other capacities if you do a good job, but also just gives you a chance to flex your nutrition knowledge and develop your own online presence or your own authentic voice. You can offer community workshops, and you can also take advantage of online courses or webinars to deepen your knowledge. And all of these can be great things to look at, do now or later, to learn more about sports dietetics or to get to more experience in it. Internships and fellowships that I'm aware of. Gatorade has a sports nutrition immersion program that they do annually. I believe they accept 8. You must be a current ID or RD, which I believe is their current. I believe you used to be a student or graduate, but now I think you have to be a current RD. They have all sorts of great locations at different universities and some with even professional sports teams. And it does also have a stipend. So that's a great one to look at. My Sports Dietitian, mysportsrd.com. They are always looking for interns, whether you're a student or whether you're a current dietitian. I did some work for them. You can do your work remotely, so it's great if you're just looking for something to do on the side. Exos, they have performance dietitian internships that open up periodically throughout the different locations throughout the US. I believe you just have to be a current student for that one. IMG Academy, they're in Florida. They also periodically offer a nutrition internship as well. UFC has a performance nutrition internship program. UFC is really awesome. They're in Las Vegas. They have a really cool program there. And then the Sports Nutrition Playbook for Professionals, which is Amy Goodson, I believe is her name. She offers a RD internship as well. So that's the one to check out. Continuing education. So whether now or later, some great organizations to check out and be involved with. ASPC, gosh, I want to say CSPCA, I can't even say it now, ASPDA. That one, I believe I stand by, is probably your best bet. It's got a lot of your collegiate dietitians, a lot of your team dietitians, Olympic dietitians, tactical dietitians are all a part of that. So whether that's you're looking at attending one of their conferences, they have an annual conference. They also do a boot camp that's more geared towards students and interns, people that are very early on in their career. And then they also offer some advanced practice workshops for people later in their career. Again, the SHPG is the academies, their DPG for sports and performance. So they also have some job boards, and I believe they do an annual conference. This year, I think, was just online. Summit Nutrition Network is a new one started by a sports dietitian. And that one's one to check out. These ones all also offer like different research updates that they send out periodically, monthly even, with like the latest research as it relates to sports nutrition. So that's great if you're looking to like stay up on continuing education. ISSN and even the National Strength and Conditioning Association is something to consider. Again, I said sometimes knowing the strength and conditioning coaches is just as valuable as knowing sports dietitians, because you'll be working alongside them. And oftentimes they're bouncing around from team to team too. And so if they work with a great dietitian, or they know somebody's up and coming that they met somewhere else, they will often bring up your name if you've done good work. So it's great to know a lot of people, and it's great to do good work for different people that then can shout your name out. Conferences and workshops, the ones that I mentioned, plus My Sports RD offers a sports nutrition symposium. And there's also a female athlete conference if you're interested in more of female athlete focused curriculum that is offered yearly as well. And then there's a bunch of courses and webinars to check out. A Gatorade Performance Partner has a lot of great webinars, handouts, resources, research. Performance Nutrition Pros was started by a couple sports dietitians that have been in the field for a long time, worked with a lot of high-level athletes and teams, and they have a program called Lab to Life, which they're offering, I think, a couple times a year, and it's like a in-person workshop. I haven't attended that, but I've heard amazing things about that. And then again, Amy Goodson has the Sports Nutrition Playbook for Professionals. She has a course, and My Sports Dietitian also has webinars and courses to check out as well that are geared towards aspiring sports dietitians or current sports dietitians. And then, like I said, there's lots of different types of roles that a sports dietitian can have, whether you're working for, a pro team or a collegiate team or a college, or even, right now the Olympics are going on. So if you follow Team USA Nutrition, you can see that we've got some sports dietitians over in Paris right now doing some cool things. There are places, sorry, let me back up. On the left side here. So I think that oh my gosh, guys, ASPDA job board is the best one, again, for finding different opportunities, but also check out the NCAA job board. Teamwork Online also posts jobs, and then LinkedIn. If you're not using LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. It's silly to not be on LinkedIn. Even if you have a fantastic Instagram or TikTok following, LinkedIn allows you to tap in with people that maybe aren't on social media and are, high-level people that if they're seeing either you're putting out great content, or you're, maybe sharing an article that you contributed to, something like that. They pay attention to these. You can get access to other professionals that you might not get access to elsewhere. And then sometimes too, if you're building out your network, you'll see jobs posted there, like teams that are looking for sports dietitians. You'll see opportunities posted there before they're posted anywhere else. But yes, so again, different jobs that you can get involved in, whether that's at a sports performance center, like a CrossFit gym even. You can do private practice, tactical, military, special forces, all have sports dietitian jobs. They pay pretty well too, and have pretty good job stability. I know a lot of dietitians that have gone from working at pro or collegiate teams and have moved over to the tactical side and just love it. They love the balance over there as well. Corporate wellness programs, you can be a sports dietitian there and help in that capacity. Eating disorder clinics, online coaching, community education, research, even food industry, media and journalism. There's all sorts of different ways that you can practice sports dietetics, and all sorts of different jobs that you can look at, even thinking outside the box here a little bit. And then let's see, some podcasts and books. So Sports RD Snippets podcast with Liz Waluka is a really, really great podcast. She's been doing it for, I want to say, like 4 years now. And so if you start at the beginning, I recommend start at the beginning. There's all sorts of different dietitians that come on that a lot of them did the Gatorade SNP program. There's different dietitians that are working in collegiate and pro teams and just sharing their experiences. Sometimes they'll share like best tips for building out your resume or job interview, or ways to get your foot in the door. So it's a really great one to look at and to get some inspiration from. And then some other books that are more just geared towards sports nutrition in general. Nutrient Timing came out recently, written by Lauren Link. Sports Nutrition Playbook, again, by Amy Goodson. The Healthy Former Athlete, also by Lauren Link. I should plug, Lauren Link was my mentor at Purdue University. So I'm a little biased, but she also does incredible work in the field. Sports Nutrition Guidebook by Nancy Clark. Nancy Clark's also a GOAT. She's been around for a long time and done some great things in the field of sports dietetics. And the Sports Nutrition, a handbook for professionals. It's like a yellow book. You can find it on Amazon. That's a great one. And a lot of the information in it is great if you're studying for the CSSD exam. A lot of that information will come from there. And yeah, I'm ready for questions, or I'm not sure if we are going to a panel next. But here is my contact information if you're interested in keeping in touch, staying in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessa. That was so helpful and so informative. I know there's a lot of people on here who are interested in sports dietetics, so you can go ahead and drop your questions. We have two more people coming on to talk a little bit about their sports nutrition experience, but we will answer those questions at the very end of this session, so very soon. So drop those questions in there, and I see there's already some in, and I've grabbed those so that we'll answer them.
Should I stop my share now?
All right, awesome. Thank you. So now we are going to welcome Tamika Watts. She's going to share about her own experience in sports dietetics, and we are very excited, and we have a lot of thank yous in the chat. Again, thank you, Jessica. We'll come back and have Jessica on here again with everyone else for the questions in the end of this session. So let's go ahead and get Tamika spotlighted. It's all set. Awesome. And you can go ahead, Tamika.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tamika Watts. I'm so excited to be here today just to kind of give you guys some insight into my own personal journey of becoming a sports dietitian. I like to call myself still a baby dietitian. I feel like I was just in y'all's shoes not that long ago. So I am the current athletic sports dietitian at North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. This is their first time ever having a full-time sports dietitian on staff. So I've essentially been able to come in and build my own sports performance nutrition program from the ground up. As you can probably imagine, it's been a roller coaster, but it's also been very exciting. We're in the middle of football camp right now, so I'm actually going to run to work right after this call. So I just kind of want to backpedal to kind of give you guys some insight into how I got to where I am. I completed my undergraduate degree in biology. And during that time, I always knew I wanted to go to PA school. So I actually worked 2 years in the hospital in the ED as a CNA. So I did a whole 360 career switch, decided that I wanted to be a registered dietitian, and sports nutrition really stood out to me. So I completed my didactic program at UNC Greensboro, and then I went on to complete my master's in nutrition as well at UNC Greensboro. So I graduated last year, spring of 2023, and completed my internship last year as well. So like I said, it was not that long ago. I studied for about 6 weeks for my RD exam, signed up to take it last June, passed my RD exam. So it was really nice to have that under my belt, because then a month later, I started my sports nutrition fellowship at the University of Georgia. So I always get asked the question from a lot of aspiring sports RDs, and it's, how did I land that fellowship position? And do I think a sports nutrition fellowship is worth it? So to answer that first question, during my dietetic internship, I knew I wanted to do sports nutrition. I was really interested in it. So I knew that I wanted to do a very robust sports nutrition rotation. So I was able to do a 12-week sports nutrition rotation with UNCG Athletics, which was actually really great because it's also a fairly new sports nutrition program. So there's one dietitian there. She started it in about 2019. And because of this, I was able to do a lot during my time as a dietetic intern because she needed a lot of help. So I was able to get experience in doing team talks. I was also able to do body comp testing. I got to sit in on one-on-one consults and also do some of my own. I also had that experience, like Jess mentioned, about planning menus for our basketball program. So I planned all their travel, hotel menus, worked with the catering. I also got to attend our pregame meals and kind of do some plate coaching and just kind of interact with our student athletes. So after I did this 12-week sports nutrition rotation, I asked myself, I was like, am I ready for a full-time sports dietitian role? And at the time, I kind of was like, not really, but I knew that if I would have done one, I would have been okay. But at the same time, I knew that I still wanted more of that mentorship piece that I know a fellowship would have given me. So I decided to apply. Well, I decided to look for some fellowship positions. So I looked on the ASPDA, which was then CPSDA job board, and I just looked for different fellowships. And at the time, I remember that CPSDA had a Gatorade SNP fellowship because I was following them, so I kind of knew about it. So I looked and saw that the deadline to apply was like 7 days away. So I quickly got in my letter of recs last January and submitted my application for the Gatorade SNP fellowship. So about 2 weeks later, I got a call that I was moving on to the second round and that I would be getting interviewed by a couple of schools. So I interviewed with a couple of schools. Gatorade SNP has a matching process that they do. So essentially, I ranked Georgia #1, Georgia ranked me #1, and I got chosen as one of 8 Gatorade SNP fellows for the previous class. So I started my Gatorade SNP fellowship with Georgia last July. And basically, like I said, the reason why I wanted to do a sports nutrition fellowship was I wanted more of that mentorship piece. So at Georgia, I functioned as a full-time sports dietitian. I had 4 to 5 teams where I was their lead dietitian. So I had that autonomy that I wanted, but I also had the mentorship piece that I also wanted as well. That is sometimes really hard to find when you're just doing a full-time sports dietitian role. So during my fellowship, me and my mentor, we would meet weekly. And in these weekly meetings, I could ask her questions. I could kind of go over some ideas that I had that I wanted to do with my teams. So that was just a chance for me, again, like I said, to have that autonomy, but also have that mentorship piece. A good thing about a fellowship too is just it's a chance where you can make mistakes, you can ask questions, you can learn from them, and then you can grow. So this helped me tremendously in just being able to grow as a more knowledgeable sports dietitian by having a chance just to kind of learn from my mistakes and grow from them. Another benefit of the sports nutrition fellowship, I would say, is it's going to open the doors for so many job opportunities. And just so many opportunities in general. I have had so many opportunities that have come from my fellowship position, whether that is being able to speak at our sports nutrition conferences, being able to be published in magazine articles, also just the amount of job opportunities that I got when I decided to start applying for full-time roles, just from having that fellowship position. I think I saw earlier someone put in the chat like how to get back into sports nutrition. And I would definitely say taking advantage of those fellowship positions that are on the job board is a really good way to get back into sports nutrition if you've been out of it for a while. And then I also want to just kind of leave you guys with one tip and something that hopefully will be helpful for some of you guys who are aspiring sports RDs. And that's just to visualize where you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years and work at it daily. So this is something that I did during my didactic program is I sat down and I visualized where I saw myself in the next 3 years. And I wrote down what are some things that I could currently be doing to help me achieve that goal. So for me, it looked like volunteering in the fueling station. And I always tell people it's not always fun, it's not always glamorous, but I would get up and do a 2-hour shift before my morning class, whether that was stocking the fueling station, making smoothies, unpacking boxes, doing inventory, loading up more protein shakes. So that's something that I did every single day just to get more experience in that sports nutrition world. Another thing that I did that Jessica touched on was networking. basically I kind of fixed my LinkedIn up because I knew that was a good way just to get my name out there. I would send a lot of emails to sports nutritionists or sports dietitians that I was inspired by. So maybe I sent 20 emails and I heard back from 2. But if you don't send the email, then you won't hear back at all. And from those sports dietitians, I was able to have coffee with the local sports dietitian and really just pick her brain about what does your day look like? What are the work hours? What is the work-life balance like, to see if this is something I really wanted to do. So definitely network during your time right now as a student, as a dietetic intern, just to kind of get a glimpse of what the sports dietitian world looks like. Another thing that I would recommend you do is to stay up to date on the latest research in sports nutrition. I feel like sometimes when we get caught up in our grad work, at least for me, I don't have a chance to really see what is still out there, what's the latest research in sports nutrition. So every month, I made it a thing where I printed out a research article in sports nutrition. I would make my coffee or I'd make my tea, and I would basically just read a research article every month so that I was staying up to date on the latest research out there. So that's something that you could be doing as well, is just like staying up to date on what's out there, because we know the research is always changing. Another thing that I would recommend you do that I took advantage of as a dietetic intern was I acknowledged a weakness that I had or something that I didn't have a lot of experience in. And I tried to find a job or volunteer opportunity to work on that. So for me, clinical nutrition came really, really easy. Like I said, I worked as a CNA for 2 years, so I had a lot of clinical experience, but I had never worked in a restaurant, didn't have a lot of food service experience. So one summer I found a local job as a dietary aide at the hospital, and I worked as a dietary aide. So I was able to kind of just gain more experience in food service. I was able to gain better food service skills, knife skills, bring in patient trays to patients' rooms, and really just work on that skill so that I can add that to my resume to look like a more well-rounded and versatile dietitian. So that's something that you could be doing. Maybe clinical is not your strength, but find some things that you could be doing, whether that's through a volunteer opportunity or a work opportunity, so that you can look more well-rounded as well. And then lastly, just wanted to say, look for fellowship positions and apply to them. Luckily, most of my fellowship position was a paid fellowship position. Most of them are, and like Jessica said, some of the positions may not be, but it definitely is just a really great way to get your foot in the door. And also it's a good way to see if sports nutrition is what you want to do. So these are typically shorter positions, usually like 9 months to 1 year. And from this fellowship position, you can see if this is something that you see yourself doing for long term. And in addition to that, it's going to also help open up so many doors so that you can land a full-time sports dietitian role. So I say all of that to say, I was in y'all's shoes not that long ago, and I just remember that I wanted to do sports nutrition, and I would definitely just recommend you guys to volunteer, find opportunities where you can look more like a versatile and well-rounded sports dietitian to help you land a full-time sports dietitian role. So I just say good luck to all of you guys out there, and that I'm cheering you guys on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tamika. I know we had a lot of questions in the chat as you were talking. We'll save those as well. We do have a presentation to share from Dr. Greg Cox about his sports nutrition experience, but really loved learning about how you got your foot in the door. You have so much different experience and a lot of really hands-on experience with a lot of sports. So I think that's really inspiring for everyone here to hear about. And we do have those questions. So now we are going to watch Dr. Greg Cox. So he is Australian. He's involved in the Olympics, the Australian swim team. So he was training them this summer. Really interesting. He'll talk a little bit about that during his presentation. And he sent us his to play. Obviously, there's a time change. So we're going to go ahead and watch that.
Just a young gun with a quick fuse.
Hi, I'm Greg Cox. I'm an associate professor at Bond University. And I also happen to be a sports dietitian. Now, if I'm not playing sport like I am here, even today, I'm watching sport intensely. I'm a great fan of sport, as are these guys.
Thibaut Pinot past his fan club. He is putting on a show. It's Mr. Entertainment.
Given my great love of sport, when university came around, I jumped both feet into an undergraduate degree in exercise and sports science at the University of Queensland. During an exercise physiology subject, a study by the eminent professor, Dr. Dave Costell from Ball State University, triggered my interest in the importance of nutrition for exercise performance. What I realised was that the interaction between exercise and nutrition was really where all the magic happened. So with the realisation I wanted to connect exercise and nutrition, I started my journey of becoming a dietitian, and then I completed further postgraduate studies with a master's and a PhD. So I was fortunate to complete my PhD while working at the Australian Institute of Sport, which is the equivalent of the USOC. The questions I asked in my PhD were driven by my experience as a working sports dietitian. I was interested in investigating carbohydrate strategies that would enhance endurance exercise performance. A key study we completed during my PhD investigated whether your body could enhance the uptake of carbohydrate into the active muscle. Now, we found that training regularly with carbohydrate increased your muscle's ability to burn the carbohydrate during exercise. This finding has been incorporated into the most recent sports nutrition guidelines. So the take-home message from my PhD story is that it's likely that the next generation of sports dietitians will be well skilled to apply research methodology to the questions that they see in clinical practice. Over my 25 years or more in working in sports nutrition, the model of servicing has become far more complex. Early on in my career, I had a small allocation of time across a variety of different sports. Now, this was great because it allowed me to consolidate my skills in the area of sports nutrition. As the scope of sports nutrition practice has increased, it's allowed me to develop my skills or hone my skills in a variety of different sports, including gymnastics, diving, water polo, sprint and slalom canoe, triathlon, and even more recently, swimming. I've always made myself useful in my sports nutrition practice. I've looked or listened for an issue. I've considered the evidence that sits around that issue, and then I've developed a strategy to support performance or health and well-being. I might develop a system or a series of educational resources. For example, with triathlon leading into the Tokyo Olympic Games, we were concerned about the hot and humid conditions the athletes were facing. The science tells us that in hot, humid conditions, the evaporative cooling potential is low. So considering opportunities for pre-cooling are important. So we trialled and then subsequently implemented the use of ice slushies pre-race. We developed a strategy for race day and then communicated this clearly to the athletes. And then we also developed some resources they could use while they travelled the circuit throughout the world. Check out the edited version of my How to Make an Ice Slushie. Okay, to make a slushie for hot weather racing, I fully appreciate I'm not a world famous TikToker, but you've got to make every attempt to engage the athlete. Now, I've always loved sport and been intrigued by the interaction of exercise and nutrition. but I've also been a foodie at heart. And early in my career, I realised that providing food, creating food environments for sport was considered to be valuable. The other thing I realised was that the food environment and how you manage the food environment can shift an athlete's dietary intake. Now, you're looking at 2 blocks of cheese, one sliced and one's a whole block. Now, if I provide the block cheese, athletes require a couple of steps. They have to grab a knife, grab a chopping block before they can engage with the food. The sliced cheese, on the other hand, they can eat straight from the fridge. So how you present food can create a change in the access of the food and the ease of eating, which will ultimately influence the athlete's dietary intake. So the idea of creating food environments, managing out food environments for athletes during training camps, domestically or internationally, can be a valuable tool for the sport and also an opportunity for the sports dietitian. Now, food environments can be smaller scale and something that you implement locally into the daily training environment. In this instance, we implemented Breakfast. Now, the idea behind Breakfast was to create a change in the daily training schedule. We wanted to create an opportunity for athletes to refuel after an intense morning training session before they entered the gym. In terms of large-scale food environments, it doesn't get much bigger than the Olympics. I've been fortunate to attend several Olympics, and in 2016 was the National Nutrition Lead for Team Australia. It was a challenging role as it required pre-planning to ship food into Rio, as well as managing off-site facilities for the Australian team and ensuring that the menus were aligned to the competition schedule. Throughout my sports nutrition career, I've incorporated research methodology into my clinical practice. And this was modelled by Professor Louise Burke, who was my boss for more than 20 years. Without the support of Louise and other dietitians and health professionals like Ben Desborough, pictured here with Louise and myself, I wouldn't be the dietitian I am today. For those starting their career, make sure that you get some mentors that will support you and challenge you throughout your career. Currently, I split my time consulting into sport while working at Bond University as co-head of program for the Master of Nutrition and Dietetic Practice. We're recognised in Australia, and we're the only program in the Southern Hemisphere that's recognised in the US by Ascend. Since coming into academia, I've realised that the student journey is similar to that of an athlete. Minor assessments, minor competitions, major assessments, major competitions. The ultimate goal, graduating or having a major win. So to wrap it up, one thing while you're working hard is that you want to have a little fun working as a team and looking for opportunities for success. Okay, so take 47. I do hope this video has given you a glimpse into my career as a sports dietitian, and on behalf of Bond University, we're extremely pleased to be a sponsor of the All Access Dietetics Summit. So jump over to Bond's virtual booth at the sponsor area to check us out.
Okay, let's come back here. And we are going to do a little bit of Q&A. We have some questions in there. I did grab them. And let me scroll down to them. All right, so we still have Jessica and Tamika here to answer your questions. And we're going to start with, we have this question, who is a dietetic tech registered, has experience in clinical sports and community, gained experience in sports nutrition, working as an intern for the Gamecocks, and helped establish the first sports nutrition center at SU. It's been a long time though, and how would you recommend getting back into the fields? Her sports nutrition is from 2016 and is right now working back in clinical.
I can add, oh wait, am I muted? No, okay. I would say, like I said, the sports nutrition fellowships are a great way to get back into sports nutrition. In our previous Gatorade SNP class, we had a dietitian. She's been a dietitian for about 5 years, and she was in clinical, and she did the Gatorade SNP fellowship so that she could get back into sports nutrition. So she actually completed her Gatorade SNP at Purdue, and she is actually getting back in sports now and going through the interview process now. But I would say the fellowship positions on the job board, maybe your best bet, because it's just another way to get back and get your foot back in the door. Jess wants to add to that.
Yeah, same thing too. And then also just look at how you're building out your resume. The clinical role, obviously there's some carryover into sports nutrition. But I would, if you are applying to positions or fellowships or anything like that, I would highlight your sports nutrition experience really out front, and then trying to show as much different things that you did in that role, so that if someone's looking at bringing you on, whether in a fellowship or even an entry level capacity, they can see that you've had some experience and exposure, even if it was, several years ago.
Awesome, thank you. Great question. We do actually have a similar question to this one that was just posted about whether fellowships are paid or not. So I know you both talked, some are paid, some aren't. It just really depends, looking at the job boards and all of the ones that are listed, and just looking at all the different opportunities, just knowing that there's a variety between being paid and not being paid, and sometimes not being paid, it's still a really great way to get that experience, get your foot in the door. Brianna did ask, do you recommend becoming a virtual assistant for a sports dietitian to gain experience, or like working or shadowing with a sports dietitian?
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's all different ways, again, that you can get experience, exposure, and then build out that network and that connection with someone by supporting them in that capacity.
Perfect. And we do have a few more questions here. I'm going to grab these questions from the chat because we are going to move into our next section, but we'll keep these questions. And some of this was also covered in the session, so you'll be able to see the replay, but we are going to stop at those two. I think those are really good to learn how to get more experience with shadowing or becoming a virtual assistant for a dietitian, weighing between paid or unpaid fellowship, and then also, if it's been a long time, how to get your foot back in the door. So thank you, Tamika and Jessica, and to Greg, who isn't with us with the time change. But thank you both so much for all of your insight and your personal experiences. I think everyone here is super inspired, and whether they are looking to become a sports dietitian or not, they certainly learned a lot about the pathway and how to do it. So thank you.